Hello everyone, Drake Robinson here. Oh boy, oh boy. We gotta talk about it because we gotta talk about the lady and her two children who were assaulted by a group of unruly middle schoolers in Chicago, Illinois. Now, this hits home a little bit because, for those of you who don't know, I actually live here in Chicago. Lived here in Chicago pretty much my whole life, even though I have family's originally from Alabama. But, pretty much born and raised here. Now, luckily, where I live currently and where I've lived, made it my grandparents, mom and grandparents pretty much made it a habit that I don't grow up in the worst parts of Chicago. Luckily in the neighborhood I stay in now, it's livable here. There's not a person, being unalived due to gang violence every five every 5 minutes. So, luckily, I have that going for me at the very least. But anyways, back to this story. So you have this mother who was walking with her kids. To give some context, her son is 9, I believe, and her daughter's like 6 or 5. And her son's been being bullied by these unruly, youths, and I think that's why she was walking home. That, or she had to pick him up, but so they were walking, trying to avoid the conflict, and these group of youths just came right up and just started viciously assaulting the kid, viciously assaulting the mom. Even, I remember a time period where, if you were even if you were walking, um, you know, if you were a victim of bullying and your parent was there, the bullies would back off. They may say something across the street or whatever, but they keep walking. Nowadays kids are so bold, and but again, I blame this modern society because what has this modern society done to, but bring down, but elevate the temperature to unfathomable degrees. It is ingrained these children that it's okay to do what they're doing, and there's no repercussions for it. And I'll get into that more, you know. But yeah, so like they attacked this mom like so viciously and violently, and so afterwards, of course, there's this uproar, and the mom also was sick at the moment. You could tell in the video she was very, very weak, and that was due to the fact that this mother was suffering from sickle cell disease, which, for those who don't know, it's pretty much is a very bad sickness. I've actually, one of my coworkers at the old job I used to have actually his mom actually had that disease. Funny enough, or not funny enough, but well, yeah, it's a small world. And yeah, it's just not pretty. So that adds an extra layer of sadness to this story. Um, and and as surprising as it would be to people who don't live, okay, let's say I have viewers who don't live in America, or or in Chicago in general. I was not shocked when I saw this video. A lot of people were. I wasn't. You know why? Because that's why I say all the time, this modern society ingrains in the youth. I mean, it's bad enough the youth is being, tortured essentially with pronouns and stuff in school, forced to say their pronouns, forced to, endure all this ridiculous stuff that they're learning in schools, about all this, trans stuff and all that, and it's just like a child that age should not be learning that stuff. A child that age should be learning their ABCs, freaking, I don't know, what a child that age should be learning about, pretty much. Drawing SpongeBob stuff, and, I don't know, that was stuff back when I was, around that age, so, And the weirdest, but, what struck me is, you know, the most surprising thing to me is, well, I can't even say really surprising, but it was, and they had this girl, who was one of the assailants, get online and give this very, very forced fake apology, if you ask me. And the mom is there. I mean, you can see where these kids come from. I've seen the pictures and the videos of the girl who her parents, and you could tell where these kids get this very animalistic behavior from. I mean, it's not hard to understand. I grew up in an era where I was never allowed to talk back to an adult, let alone put physical hands on an adult. I was always raised to respect my elders, to respect, people who, to not be a bully. I've never been a fan of bullies, ever. I've been bullied. So I understand that it's a sucky thing to go through. I feel bad for that 9-year old, you know, and his sister, his mom, for going through that. Very. I imagine very. This is gonna haunt them. Even though they're of course getting, you know, from what I last read up on, they moved out of that neighborhood. They're in a better house. The mom has a car now. They got all this money coming in. Beyonce's, um, Beyonce is flying them out to her house or whatever, or something like that for Christmas. Good for them. I guess if there's any, surprisingly there's actually a good outcome. You know, but I mean this is a very traumatic experience, especially for a child that age. You know, like being assaulted and having your mom assaulted. It's like, but yeah, so I guess, if there's a light at the end of this tunnel, I guess it's that. But yeah, Chicago, I'm not surprised about anything that happens here. I'm really not. It's inevitable, actually. Um, and but one thing I will also say, for as much, I don't, but people are obviously bringing it too far when they say they're gonna like harm the children and stuff like that. Listen, man, I listen. As much as I of course don't like what those kids did. They are still children at the end of the day. But some people are just like have the same barbaric mindset, and it's just like this circle of violence and needless aggression. Like, yeah, it's a sucky thing that happened, but like you don't need to. You as an adult don't need to say that you're gonna go out and like find these children and harm them in any way, because they are kids, and they at the end of the day, yes, what they did was not cool in any way, but I don't know. You as an adult need to be better, but we all know a lot of these blue pillar adults, they